Hi everyone, this is Dr. V, and today we are going to be talking about the causes of dopamine imbalance in the brain chemistry. So I'm going to be talking with you today about 7 different causes of dopamine imbalance. And before we start talking about those, I just want to show you a couple of labs on different clients that we have worked with. This one on the left here, as you can see, this client had extremely high dopamine levels. And the high dopamine levels oftentimes cause very strong feelings of impulsivity, a lot of anxiety and mind racing, sleep issues, and the anxiety oftentimes leads into feelings of depression as well. And both with high and low dopamine. And you can see here on the right-hand side that this client was experiencing very low dopamine in addition to some of her other neurotransmitters. Oftentimes we see lack of motivation, a lot of mental and physical fatigue. Again, these clients typically will have mind racing, also a lot of brain fog, decreased memory recall, also issues with sleep. Libido can also be affected with dopamine imbalance. And I really want to spend some time to talk about dopamine today because many people think that when they don't feel well mentally, that it's always a serotonin issue. And most people think that it's a deficiency of serotonin that's the problem. Well, I can tell you that working with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases, that dopamine is probably more common of an issue than the serotonin. I do see serotonin issues. I definitely see that. Sometimes we'll see it too low, like in this case here. Sometimes we see it too high. But it's very, very rare that serotonin is the only issue. And I can tell you that it's not always the main issue. So let's jump in and let's talk about 7 common causes of dopamine imbalance. Number 1 is going to be medications. Prescription medications may be helping with one particular issue, but they're always going to have a side effect. There really aren't any pharmaceuticals out there that don't create a tidal wave of side effects in the body. And some of the medications that can cause dopamine imbalance can actually be antidepressants, believe it or not. A doctor might give a client an SSRI to help preserve the serotonin in the synapse and prevent the serotonin levels from getting lower. But the side effect can be that it affects the dopamine levels. So it can actually take the problem and make it worse. ADHD and ADD meds can also affect dopamine levels. And there are other medications also that can do that as well. So we just want to make sure that if we're going to take a medication, that we have a plan of action set in place so that we optimally do not have to stay on the medication for long term. More times than not, medications don't need to be taken long term if the client is working with the right health team so that they can get their issues in order and they can just use it as a crutch for a short period of time to help them until they get their own body's engines working properly so that they don't need the medications anymore. Reason number 2 are deficiencies in amino acids. So let's talk about that for just a few minutes. Amino acids are building blocks of not only your cells, but the DNA in your body. You cannot live without amino acids. And we can easily get our amino acid consumption from animal proteins. But if we're not eating a diet that includes animal protein, then we just need to take the extra time to make sure that we are choosing a variety of foods so that we can get a complete amino acid profile. Because if you're missing amino acids, it is not only going to cause a problem with your dopamine balance, it's going to cause a problem with every brain chemical in your brain, So your serotonin, your norepinephrine, your GABA levels, everything in your brain is going to be affected by lack of amino acids. And every other function in your body, every single function in your body is going to be negatively affected if you're not getting a complete amino acid profile. Um, L-tyrosine and L-theanine in particular are needed for the production and to metabolize dopamine. So it's really important that we make sure that we have those. Sometimes we can either just be eating the wrong foods or not eating enough of the right foods. So we're having an actual deficit in the intake of the amino acids. Sometimes, though, it can be a leaky gut problem, and we're going to talk about that as one of the causes. Reason number 3 why we can have dopamine imbalances would be a deficiency or malabsorption of different vitamins and minerals, including vitamin B2, B3, magnesium, iron, vitamin C, and we even have substances like SAMe that our body will use to help in the production and the conversion of dopamine, so that we can maintain a healthy dopamine balance. And if we're having malabsorption issues, or we're having underlying infections, or we have environmental toxins in our body like heavy metals or glyphosates or perchlorates or different types of interferences like that in our body, that can actually inhibit our body's ability to utilize these different nutrients so that we can make our brain chemistry. Reason number 4 is the COMT gene. That would be the COMT gene. Now, when we have mutations in this gene and the gene is malexpressing itself, that can cause a problem where we're not able to break the dopamine down and convert it to norepinephrine. And therefore, we oftentimes will see higher than normal dopamine levels as a result. And this can lead to, extreme anxiety, extreme impulsivity, a lot of mind racing, and it can just lead to a whole lot of problems. However, if we understand what's going on with the genes and we understand what's going on with the body, there are workarounds for this. So just because you have a COMT gene mutation, if you have it, it does not mean that you are doomed to have problems. I can speak from clinical experience and even personal experience, because I myself also have a double COMT mutation and some pretty significant mutations even in my methylation genes as well. And I've been able to completely make a turnaround and get my brain chemistry back in balance and get my memory back. And so can you. That leads me to cause number 5 of dopamine imbalance, which are methylation gene mutations. So if we're having different methylation gene mutations, that can cause a problem with our ability to produce dopamine and serotonin. Some of the methylation mutations that you might be more familiar with would be the MTHFR gene, for example. And again, there's very, very easy workarounds for that. As long as we can do the lab so that we can see what's going on, then we know how to address it and how to make a plan of action to actually fix it. Reason number 6 are infections. So infections can actually cause huge, massive changes in brain chemistry imbalance that can include your serotonin levels, your dopamine levels, your norepinephrine levels, and your GABA levels. And so it's super important that we take a look under the hood and we make sure that if you have infections, that we start getting rid of those infections. We many times have infections as the root cause of people's anxiety. So, for example, infections like C. diff or Clostridia or different types of mold or candida infections can significantly alter dopamine levels to the point where it makes people have severe anxiety and panic attacks. And once we get rid of the infections, then we are completely able to eliminate their symptoms of anxiety and panic attacks. Reason number 7 is leaky gut. So leaky gut can cause a lot of problems. Even if you have all of the ingredients that you need to make your dopamine and break it down. Where that happens is in the gut. It doesn't happen in the brain. So it's really important that we have a healthy gut ecosystem or healthy gut biome so that the body can absorb and uptake the nutrients that it needs, and so that it can utilize them to make and break your brain chemistry down. And so these are the 7 reasons that I wanted to talk with you about why your dopamine levels can be out of balance. I hope you found this information super useful and awesome. And we will be talking more about brain chemistry imbalances in the next upcoming videos. Thanks and have a wonderful day.